Welcome to Listen2Riches. Today, I will be deciphering a book for you, The Road Less Traveled, with the subtitle, The Journey of Mental Maturity. This book has consistently appeared on the New York Times bestseller list for nearly 20 years, making it a remarkable work. What's even more astounding is that when this book was first published 40 years ago, no one could have foreseen the remarkable impact it would have on the world of literature. Today, it has been translated into 23 languages and is distributed globally. Through word of mouth alone, it has reached an astonishing sales figure of 30 million copies. The author of this book is Peck, acclaimed as one of the most eminent psychologists of our time. In this book, he reveals a truth that many people dare not confront. Nearly everyone harbors psychological issues, only to varying degrees. Prolonged psychological issues hinder the growth of the individual's psyche. Without timely intervention, the mind can never truly mature. Although this viewpoint may sound startling, a cursory glance around us reveals the prevalence of immature individuals. Some individuals, despite being in their 40s or 50s, remain psychologically dependent on their parents, akin to infants. Others perpetually believe that the world should revolve around them, or, upon entering middle age, lose interest in adapting to new changes, thinking they no longer need to learn. However, these states do not equate to true maturity, but rather signify stubbornness and self-centeredness. The author argues that to address these issues and achieve genuine mental maturity, one must bravely confront difficulties and challenges. Nevertheless, individuals possessing such courage are few and far between. Thus, the path to mental maturity has become a road less traveled. Over the last 40 years, this book has aided countless readers in learning to love, becoming self-reliant, finding their true selves, and guiding them out of the labyrinth of the mind, enabling them to live a serene and fulfilling life. In the following elucidation, I will delve into 3 questions. First, why is achieving mental maturity so challenging? Second, what methods can we rely on to progress towards mental maturity? Lastly, what is the ultimate goal of mental maturity? Let us begin with the first question: why is attaining mental maturity so arduous? An individual's mental maturity encompasses the sum of their cognitive abilities. This encompasses how they perceive and interpret the world, their understanding and assessment of events, and their responses to these situations, all of which are external manifestations of their mental state. Mental maturity lacks a precise standard, but we can find some insightful descriptions. A mature adult should be independent, capable of taking responsibility for their actions. They should be self-confident but not arrogant, self-respecting yet aware of potential crises. They should possess the capacity for introspection and be able to accept facts they cannot change, among other traits. On the surface, these standards might seem easy to achieve, but they are often difficult to maintain. This is because the greatest challenge of mental maturity lies in the ability to courageously confront pain and seek solutions to problems. However, only a scant few can genuinely achieve this. For instance, some individuals continually procrastinate, hoping that problems will resolve themselves. Others consciously or unconsciously choose to ignore issues or attempt to forget their existence. Some even turn to alcohol and drugs to numb themselves in exchange for momentary relief. A consensus in the field of psychology is that evading pain and problems is the root cause of psychological issues in humans. However, when facing psychological discomfort, such as stress, anxiety, embarrassment, and guilt, individuals often consciously or unconsciously employ defense mechanisms to evade these emotions. Excessively or wrongly applying these defense mechanisms can lead to psychological issues obstructing mental growth. For example, there is a defense mechanism called regression, which implies that when a person encounters adversity and is unable to cope, they revert to childlike behaviors to escape difficulties. In certain cases, as in the case of hypochondria, individuals constantly harbor doubts about their health even when medical reports and doctors repeatedly confirm their good health. There are numerous reasons behind this, most of which are related to avoiding problems and difficulties. For example, a young professional working in a renowned IT company with his girlfriend studying abroad and just recently promoted to a department head seems to have everything going for him on the surface. However, he is constantly plagued by heart palpitations. Medical examinations show that his heart is in good condition, yet he frequents doctors. In reality, his issues stem from the challenges of a long-distance relationship and managerial responsibilities, which he cannot face and instead falls into psychological defense mechanisms. Apart from hypochondria, there are numerous other psychological issues associated with avoiding problems. For instance, almost all OCD, obsessive-compulsive disorder, sufferers experience difficulties in dealing with situations like strained relationships, marital problems, academic or work setbacks before their first episode. The anxiety and distress resulting from avoiding problems may ultimately find expression through OCD symptoms. For instance, someone may transform relationship anxiety into an excessive pursuit of cleanliness, like frequent hand-washing, to avoid confronting interpersonal issues. This is entirely different from doctors who repeatedly wash their hands due to professional habits. Individuals suffering from OCD are fully aware that their obsessive thoughts or actions are meaningless but cannot control them and continue to repeat them. In other cases, individuals may experience profound death anxiety due to the illness or passing of loved ones which they cannot confront, leading to behaviors like excessive hand-washing in an attempt to evade death, which, in fact, exacerbates their suffering. Therefore, evading pain and problems not only leads to psychological issues but also stunts our mental growth or even regresses it. For instance, the regression mechanism brings hypochondriac patients back from an adult state to a childlike one where they rely on others and shirk responsibilities. So, what should people rely on to bravely confront pain and resolve problems? This brings us to the second question I want to explore. What methods do we rely on to progress towards mental maturity? The answer provided by the author is discipline and love. In this context, discipline serves as the primary tool for solving life's problems, while love is the inner motivation that inspires individuals to maintain discipline. Let's delve into these concepts, starting with discipline. In the author's perspective, discipline is not merely the often discussed capacity for self-control, self-management, or willpower. Instead, the author's understanding of discipline encompasses a positive attitude and active ability to endure pain and resolve problems. Discipline consists of 4 principles: delaying gratification, taking responsibility, being dedicated to the truth, and maintaining balance. The effectiveness of these principles hinges on your attitude, and they may lose their impact during moments when you yearn to evade pain. The first principle, delaying gratification, entails enduring discomfort for a period before experiencing pleasure. When it comes to problem solving, this means you must first confront and endure the pain inherent in addressing the problem before enjoying the greater pleasure that comes from resolving it. As mentioned earlier, the root cause of psychological immaturity lies in people's unwillingness to face pain. However, practicing delayed gratification can grant us greater self-control and management, allowing us to confront problems and difficulties without avoidance. The second principle of discipline, taking responsibility, is the foundational prerequisite for addressing problems. In this principle, taking responsibility does not mean self-blame or attributing everything to oneself, nor is it about evading responsibility and blaming external pressures. Rather, it is the clear acceptance of one's own actions and the willingness to face the consequences without evasion. The third principle of discipline is being dedicated to the truth. This requires that your life map remains aligned with the real world, free from delusions and fantasies. Throughout our lives, we continually explore, expand, and update our perception of the world and revise our life map. However, many people, once they reach middle age, believe that their life map is perfect and requires no further updates. The author terms this phenomenon as transference, and it often occurs, causing substantial and inconspicuous damage. This phenomenon can lead to many psychological disorders. The author mentioned a case of a computer technician in his 30s whose wife left him, citing his lack of self-care as the reason. Through counseling, the author revealed the man's profound disappointment with his parents during his formative years, leading to severe false beliefs. The man experienced disappointment and deceit and, in an attempt to evade pain, adjusted his mindset to stop trusting others, ultimately upgrading this perception to not trusting anyone. This concept had a significant impact on his life, causing conflicts with authority figures, alienating those around him, and even affecting his marriage. Correcting one's life map and staying true to the truth require introspection and the acknowledgement of misleading beliefs. It involves adjusting one's beliefs, accepting that there are trustworthy individuals in the adult world. Leading a truth-focused life also necessitates the courage to face questioning and challenges and the bravery to modify one's thinking to avoid being trapped in rigid mental patterns. Ultimately, a life entirely dedicated to the truth demands ongoing honesty. Prolonged self-deception can lead to the accumulation of emotional depression and guilt, triggering psychological disorders. Only by confronting the truth can one achieve an open-hearted life, facilitating the healthy growth of the mind. Now, let's move on to discussing the fourth principle of discipline. However, achieving discipline is not easy. It requires immense courage to endure pain. According to the author, on this road less traveled, the driving force pushing us forward is love. Because it is love that grants us the courage to face pain. This answer may seem simple, but how many people genuinely understand what love is and possess the capacity for it? There was a young male patient with a timid, fearful, and introverted personality. He told the author that his mother's love for him was overwhelming. Starting from first grade, she drove him to school every day, and even in his senior year of high school, she refused to let him take the school bus. But was this really love? More often than not, it wasn't. The most apparent difference between love and non-love lies in the fact that genuine love should make the recipient feel happy and help them achieve their goals. If it doesn't align with the recipient's goals, it's not true love. The mother's actions, in this case, stifled the child's need to grow and were clearly unrelated to love. Furthermore, real love should promote the progress and growth of both parties, arising from mutual efforts, not just words. However, many times we are misled by external appearances and, in turn, miss true love. What are some common misconceptions about love? The author presents 4 primary misunderstandings. First, the confusion between passionate emotions and true love. In reality, this passion is primarily a response to innate human desires triggered by external stimuli and is significant for species propagation and survival. However, these feelings often diverge from reality. Second, the misunderstanding of dependence as love. This is the most common misunderstanding, as the need for love can make it difficult for individuals to maintain independence and freedom in relationships. This dependence often stems from a lack of parental love during childhood, leading to excessive dependency, with individuals seeking love without being willing to give. Finally, true love aims to foster growth in both oneself and the other person, the result of continuous efforts. However, many people are often ensnared by various misconceptions, keeping their minds in an immature state. When discussing the third misconception of love, it involves inappropriate overindulgence. For example, some mothers might treat their children as eternal infants, refusing to allow them to develop independent will and autonomy. The mother mentioned earlier, who consistently drove her child to school, essentially confused overindulgence with love. There are similar examples, such as treating pets in this manner, or demonstrating love solely by obeying a partner's every command. These behaviors often stem from maternal or paternal instincts rather than true love. In contrast, these behaviors may hinder the psychological development of the recipient. The fourth misconception is equating self-sacrifice with love. There was a woman who sought the help of a therapist after her husband abandoned her. She recounted frequent abuse, neglect, extramarital affairs, and excessive alcohol consumption by her husband, who would often return home late at night, showing no concern for her or their children. Although her experiences were genuinely sympathetic, they were also puzzling because this woman endured abuse for 20 years, going through cycles of divorce, separation, and reconciliation. Victims like her often hold a mistaken belief, confusing self-sacrifice with true love. In reality, subconsciously, they are meeting their own needs. Just like this woman, was she willing to endure abuse because it gave her a sense of moral superiority? When her husband sought reconciliation, she transformed from a victim into an abuser, experiencing a sense of superiority and the pleasure of revenge. However, this is not love, it's more like hatred arising from past humiliations. The same principle applies to behaviors that were earlier misunderstood as love. The core motivation behind these actions is often to fulfill one's own needs, whereas the purpose of true love is always to promote mental maturity. Any so-called love for other purposes is not genuine love. So, in the second section, we discussed how real love empowers us, enabling us to delay gratification, take responsibility, remain dedicated to the truth, and maintain balance, achieving a high degree of self-discipline. These factors collectively drive our growth, gradually leading us toward mental maturity. Now, the journey must have a destination, no matter how long. What is the ultimate goal of this path toward mental maturity? This is the third question I'm about to explore. The author believes that the ultimate goal of mental maturity is to achieve unity of heaven and man, meaning having an equal level of self-awareness between people and a concept of the divine. However, it's important to note that this divine mentioned here is not a religious God, but rather the assumption that each person has an intimate divine within their subconscious, namely our subconscious mind. To attain this elevated spiritual state, we need to engage in continuous self-reflection to bring our consciousness closer to the inner divine. Consciousness and the subconscious are two profoundly important concepts in psychology. Consciousness refers to a person's awareness of their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors while in a waking state. The subconscious, on the other hand, encompasses the psychological activity that is not recognized or has not yet been recognized. Although we cannot directly perceive the subconscious, it fundamentally influences our conscious experience. For example, someone who was burned by fire as a child, even if they have completely forgotten about it in adulthood, may subconsciously avoid using fire. The subconscious serves the purpose of self-preservation. It significantly shapes how we perceive ourselves and others, the significance we attach to daily activities, and how we make decisions. Therefore, to achieve mental maturity, we must heed the voice of the subconscious. Previously, there was a patient who believed that she could never get angry with her family members, not even display the slightest hint of displeasure. When her sister came to visit from out of town, she casually mentioned her sister and praised her for being delightful. Then she mentioned hosting a gathering at her home that evening, inviting a neighbor couple and her husband's sister. The author pointed out to her that she mistakenly referred to her husband's sister as her own. It was only then that she finally admitted that she disliked her own sister because she talked too much. This slip of the tongue made the patient acknowledge that she, like everyone else, had negative emotions which she had been suppressing. Human beings have underlying desires and anger, which is not the issue. The problem arises when consciousness refuses to address negative emotions and the accompanying pain, leading to psychological problems that hinder mental maturity. To foster the growth of consciousness, we need to recognize and integrate the subconscious while maintaining open communication with it. Typically, the subconscious provides early warnings of deteriorating mental health, often manifesting through frequent nightmares, excessive anxiety, or profound depression. These symptoms are not illnesses but signals from the subconscious indicating that mental and emotional well-being is being affected. However, without professional training, most individuals struggle to interpret these signals. For example, peculiar dreams. The author, as a psychotherapist, advises seeking psychological counseling. I once treated a prominent figure in society who had suffered from depression for an extended period without finding the root cause. It wasn't until a few months later when he had a peculiar dream. In the dream, he found himself in an apartment filled with massive furniture, making it suffocating. His younger self and his father were there, and his father instructed him to sail to a bay to retrieve a ship. His father took him to a tall cabinet with drawers that almost touched the ceiling. His father told him that by following the cabinet, he would eventually discover the ship. Through associations with the cabinet, he suddenly realized that he wanted to kill those ancestors. This dream unexpectedly revealed his desire to become a successful member of his family, which had been causing stress, ultimately leading to his depression. The subconscious clearly articulates the most authentic emotions. As long as we interpret this information correctly, it can help us overcome psychological dilemmas, foster mental growth, and attain maturity. Therefore, in this book, the author defines the process of mental maturity as the growth or evolution of consciousness. So, how does consciousness grow? The answer lies in gradual recognition and integration of the subconscious. The specific practice is to be constantly mindful of communicating with the subconscious. Before mental health deteriorates, the subconscious often issues warnings in the form of frequent nightmares, excessive anxiety, or profound depression. These symptoms are not illnesses but rather signals from the subconscious indicating potential issues with mental and emotional well-being. Therefore, one must either introspect or seek necessary psychological treatment. However, for most individuals without professional training, interpreting these signals is not easy, especially when it comes to peculiar dreams. Because the author is a psychotherapist, he advises people to seek psychological counseling. Now, let's summarize what we've discussed. The ultimate goal of mental maturity is to achieve unity of heaven and man, which means that your consciousness and subconscious become fully integrated. You can come to an understanding with the inner divine. Looking back at this journey of mental maturity, you will realize that it's filled with challenges, but the resilience and discipline you've developed along the way have taught you how to confront pain and resolve issues. You've come to understand what true love is, gaining independence, dignity, and freedom within it. Every step you've taken is accompanied by profound self-awareness, continuous self-improvement, leading to the perfect harmony of your mind. The journey to mental maturity is not just a crucible that rejuvenates you, it's also a path to love and happiness. Well, that's it for this book. Congratulations on finishing another read. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to Listen2Riches, like, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends. Let's combine wisdom with practice to achieve your financial goals and create a brighter future. Thank you and see you in the next episode.